If you're speaking at a conference this year and you're not turning that moment into authority, inbound leads, in months of content, you are leaving a massive amount of opportunity on the table. Because most people show up to panels, seminars, and even keynotes thinking their job is to answer questions, when in reality their job is to own the room. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to speak on panels and live sessions in a way that makes you sound like the expert people want to remember, how to structure your answers so they land in under 60 seconds without rambling or getting cut off, and how to turn one appearance into a 90-day content engine without creating anything extra. Because once you understand how these conference formats actually work and how little time you truly have to make an impact, you start to realize that the difference between being just another speaker and being seen as a leader comes down to how clearly and intentionally you communicate in very small windows of time. When you really look at how conferences and trade shows are structured, there are multiple layers of educational opportunities happening all at once. And each one has a slightly different dynamic that changes how you should show up. You have keynotes, which are typically one-to-many. Those are high-level talks where a single speaker is setting the tone for the event or sharing a big idea that frames how the rest of the experience is going to be. You have seminars or breakout sessions, which are often hosted by companies and designed to go deeper into a specific topic, usually with a more controlled narrative and a clearer connection back to the product, service, or methodology. And then you have panels, which are curated by the event organizers to bring together multiple perspectives, usually guided by a moderator who is trying to facilitate a conversation that feels valuable to the audience. Each of these formats is an educational opportunity, but they also require different communication styles, and if you treat them all the same, you end up underperforming in moments that actually matter the most. A keynote gives you time and control, which allows you to build a full narrative, layer in stories, and guide your audience through a complete thought process from beginning to end. A seminar still gives you a decent amount of control, but it requires you to be more tactical and educational, often balancing teaching with positioning. A panel, however, is where most people struggle because you are sharing time. You do not control the questions, and you might only have 60 seconds at a time to make your point before conversations move on. That constraint is exactly what makes panels such a powerful opportunity, but it also exposes weak communication because most people approach a panel the same way they would approach a meeting or a casual conversation. They start talking, they talk in circles around their point, and they add disclaimers, and they also try to sound thoughtful instead of being clear. And by the time they arrive at something meaningful, the moderator has already shifted to the next person. From the audience's perspective, nothing sticks, and from a content perspective, nothing is usable. If you want to stand out in that environment, you need to understand that you are not just answering questions, you are delivering structured responses that are designed to land quickly, be easily understood, and be remembered after the session is over. The framework I recommend is pretty simple, but the way you deliver it should feel completely natural and conversational. Every answer you give should start with a clear point that removes any ambiguity about what you believe or what you are seeing in the market, because that immediately positions you as someone with a clear conviction rather than someone who just figures it out as they speak. From there, you expand slightly into the insight, where you explain why that point matters and what is changing or what most people are getting wrong, because this is where your expertise actually becomes visible. Once you have established that, you can bring in real-life examples that grounds your point in reality, whether that is a client story, a recent project, or a specific scenario that illustrates the idea in action, because examples are what make people lean in and actually understand what you are saying, because that immediately positions you as someone with conviction rather than someone who is figuring it out as they speak. There is also an element of presence that plays a significant role in how your message lands, and this goes beyond just the words you are using. The strongest panelists tend to answer with confidence, keep their responses tight, and avoid unnecessary information that dilute their message. And they are comfortable with taking a position even if it challenges the status quo. This does not mean being overly aggressive or dismissive, but it does mean that you are willing to say what you believe in a direct and clear way, which is ultimately what makes people pay attention. A practical way to prepare for this is not to script out every single answer, but to develop a small set of core talking points that you know you want to communicate regardless of how the conversation unfolds. These might include what you believe is the biggest mistake companies are making right now, where you see the greatest opportunity in your industry, how you think the market is going to evolve, or a perspective that goes against conventional thinking. When you have these in mind, you can naturally bridge different questions back to your key ideas, which allows you to stay consistent without sounding rehearsed. Now, one of the most overlooked aspects of all of this, and honestly, one of the biggest missed opportunities at conferences, is that every one of these moments is not just a live experience, it is also a piece of content that can be used long after the event is over. When your answers are structured clearly with a strong opening, a concise explanation, a real-life example, and a clean takeaway, each response becomes a self-contained clip that can live on its own. That means a single panel discussion, which may last 45 minutes to an hour, can realistically be broken down into 10, 15, even 20 short-form videos that can be distributed across platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram, reaching far more people that were ever in that room. The same applies to seminars and keynotes, where you have even more control over your delivery and can be more intentional about how your content is segmented. However, none of that matters if the content is not being captured properly. You either need to coordinate with the event organizers to ensure you have access to a clean recording, or you need to bring your own team to capture it in a way that reflects the quality of what you are saying, because this is what allows you to extend the life of that moment far beyond the event itself. At a broader level, conferences are not just educational environments for attendees, they are positioning environments for speakers. And every time you step on that stage, whether that is for a keynote, a panel, or a seminar, you are showing the market how you think, how you communicate, and how you approach problems. The people who get the most out of these opportunities are the ones who are more intentional about both the live experience and the content that comes from it. So the next time you step into one of these environments, I want you to shift your mindset from simply participating in a conversation to actually performing in a way that is clear, structured, and memorable, because that is what creates authority in the room and what creates leverage long after you leave it. If you learned something from this video and you are a marketer for an enterprise level company, I'd love to speak with you. My name is Corey Behrens. I run the Exhibitor Content Engine, which is a marketing program that builds off of your exhibit booth at trade shows or conferences. We like to say we get you 90 days of revenue generating content. We connect you with a videographer that's local to the market so they completely understand that convention center that you're going into. So if you would love to learn more about how we build out that 90-day content engine for our clients, I would invite you to schedule a free strategy call where we'll go over your next event and figure out, what are your content moments that are happening at that show. So go ahead and schedule a free strategy session with me below.